I never thought it would happen to me. I had seen it in movies and heard about it from friends, how a man could slowly slip away, how one day, without warning, he could choose someone else. But when it happened to me, it didn't feel like a movie. It felt like a slow, suffocating reality. I remember staring at my phone, reading the words that confirmed what I had already felt in my gut for weeks. He had moved on. To her. And in that moment, my heart didn't just break. It shattered. Not because he left, not because he chose someone else, but because I had spent so much time believing I needed to be chosen. I had been so busy trying to be enough that I never stopped to ask, was he ever enough for me? And maybe right now you feel that pain too. Maybe you're replaying every moment, wondering what she has that you don't. Maybe you're sitting in that silence, waiting for the closure that will never come. I know that pain, but I also know what comes after. Because one day, you will wake up and realize you were never the one who lost. And today, I'm going to tell you exactly why. This isn't the end of your story. It's the part where you win. If this resonates with you, share it with a woman who needs to hear it. And if you've ever walked through this pain and come out stronger, share your story in the comments. Let's remind every woman out there that losing him was never the loss. Choosing yourself was always the win. 1. You weren't abandoned, you were set free. For a long time, I believed his choice meant I wasn't enough. That somehow I had failed to hold his attention. That if I had been just a little more beautiful, more exciting, more irreplaceable, he would have stayed. But here's what I realized over time. He didn't reject me. He simply made space for something better. At first, it felt like my world collapsed. I couldn't understand how someone who once looked at me like I was everything could now look at someone else the same way. But then, a thought hit me. What if his departure wasn't my loss, but my escape? We are conditioned to see the end of a relationship as a failure. We assume that if a man chooses someone else, it means we lack something. But what if I told you that the moment he left, you weren't abandoned, you were set free? Imagine this. You're holding onto a rope, gripping it with everything you have. The tighter you hold it, the more it burns your hands, and the more it cuts into your skin. You don't let go, not because it's helping you, but because you're afraid of what will happen if you do. Then suddenly, the rope slips, and for a moment, panic sets in. But then, something unexpected happens. You realize that without it, your hands are no longer in pain. Your body feels lighter, and slowly you see that you were never meant to hold on. You were meant to be free. This is what happens when the wrong person leaves your life. At first it stings. The absence feels unbearable, but with time you start to see it clearly. He didn't take love away from you. He cleared the path for the right love to find you. Because the truth is, if someone can so easily replace you, they were never truly yours. And that's not a reflection of you, it's a reflection of them. You think you're losing love, but really, you're gaining clarity about who genuinely values you. Did he choose another woman? Good. That means he has stepped aside so the right man, the one who sees your worth without hesitation, can find you. But here's where it gets powerful. After he left, I had something I didn't even realize I had lost. Time, energy, and freedom. I had spent so long trying to fit into his world, his expectations, his timeline, that I forgot to ask myself, what do I want? And when I finally stopped mourning what I thought I lost, I saw something clearly. I was never supposed to shrink myself to keep him interested. I was supposed to expand into the version of myself that never had to beg for a place in someone's life. That's the lesson. Not everything that falls apart is a loss. Sometimes it's a release. And what happens when you release? You make space. Space for peace. Space for self-love. Space for the life that was waiting for you beyond him. So if you're here, wondering why her and not me, ask yourself a different question. Why was I fighting so hard to keep someone who didn't fight to keep me? Let that sink in, because the moment you shift that perspective, everything changes. 2. He doesn't decide, you choose who gets to be in your life. The moment you stop chasing validation, you start attracting respect. For so long, I believed that a man's decision had power over me. That his choice, whether to stay or to leave, defined my worth. That if he walked away, it meant I wasn't enough. But the truth is, a man's decision does not define you. You don't sit there waiting to be chosen. You decide who is worthy of your time. There was a time when I thought love was something a man gave me, that his attention was proof of my value. What if I was enough? If I was beautiful enough, interesting enough, lovable enough, then he would choose me? For a while, I lived in that illusion, constantly measuring myself against his approval, as if his presence in my life somehow determined my significance. But here's what I learned. No one has the power to choose you unless you give them that power. Think about it. When a company is hiring, do they beg candidates to accept the job? No. They assess, they evaluate, and they decide if that person is the right fit. They don't chase, they select. And when someone isn't fit, they move on. Not because they aren't valuable, but because they simply don't align. That's exactly how you should approach your relationships. The way a man treats you is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of what he values. If he doesn't see your value, that's his blindness, not your deficiency. His failure to choose you does not mean you are lacking. It means he is not capable of appreciating what you offer. And that is his loss, not yours. So, why do we still have so much weight to his decision? Because deep down, we've been conditioned to believe that a man's validation is the ultimate proof that we are lovable, that we are desirable, that we are worth something. But the moment you stop waiting for his approval, you regain control. He didn't steal your future, because he was never your future to begin with. When I stopped waiting for his validation, something changed. I started setting boundaries. I only allowed people who respected me into my space. I no longer made excuses for someone who treated me as an option. That's when I realized that a man's decision is never final. Yours is. If someone doesn't recognize your value, your response shouldn't be to prove yourself. Your response should be to walk away, with certainty, with dignity, without hesitation. Because when you do, you send a clear message, not just to him, but to yourself. You are the one who decides who gets access to you. You are the one who sets the standard for how you will be treated. And when you finally embrace that truth, you will see the power you always had. So if he chose someone else, let him. But make no mistake, he does not decide your worth. That choice has always belonged to you. 3. You didn't lose him, he lost you. Have you ever asked yourself, what exactly did I lose? I did. At first, I mourned him like a death. I grieved the future I thought we would have, the plans we made, the words he once whispered to me late at night. I replayed every moment, every promise, wondering where it all went wrong. But then, something shifted. One night I sat alone with my thoughts and asked myself a different question. What if I didn't actually lose anything? And that's when I saw the truth. I hadn't lost a man who valued me. I hadn't lost a love that was meant to last. I hadn't lost a future that was ever truly mine. I had only lost the illusion of security he gave me, the illusion that he was someone I could count on. And an illusion is not something to grieve. It's something to wake up from. A high-value woman does not chase. She does not beg for love. She does not prove her worth to someone who was blind to it from the beginning. Because here's the truth. If he couldn't see your value, that's his failure, not yours. He used to tell me no one would ever love me the way he did. And in a way, he was right. Because now I know what real love is. And it isn't something you have to convince someone to give you. Real love does not make you feel like you have to fight for a spot in someone's life. Real love does not make you question your worth. So no, you didn't lose him. He lost you. He lost a woman who was loyal, who gave her heart fully, who believed in him when he doubted himself. He lost a woman who would have stood beside him, who would have built something real with him. He lost someone irreplaceable, and one day, if he hasn't already, he will feel that loss. Because here's what happens. At first, he thinks he made the right choice. He enjoys the excitement of something new, the rush of the unknown. He convinces himself he's moved on. But time has a way of revealing what the heart tries to ignore. Weeks pass, then months. He starts to wonder why he doesn't feel the same sense of security, the same depth, the same connection. He starts to compare. And that's when regret sets in. I know, because I lived it. Months later he came back. Not with grand gestures, not with some dramatic apology. No. Just a simple message. Like nothing had ever happened. How have you been? But I wasn't the same woman anymore. I had already built myself into someone stronger, someone who no longer needed his validation. I didn't need to prove that I was worthy of being chosen. I already knew my worth. And when I saw his message, I smiled, not because I wanted him back, but because I knew he had finally learned what I had understood long before. He had lost something real, and I had lost nothing at all. 4. When a man leaves, it's not the end, it's a new beginning. When the wrong door closes, the right one finally has space to open. A breakup is not the end of your story, it's a comma before something greater. But in the moment, it never feels that way. It feels like the air has been knocked out of your lungs, like everything you built was for nothing. You wonder if you'll ever be the same again. But what if this pain wasn't meant to break you, but to build you? The strongest women are not the ones who avoid heartbreak. They are the ones who use it as fuel to rebuild. In the beginning, it feels impossible. The mornings are the hardest, waking up and remembering he's no longer there. Seeing the empty side of the bed, checking your phone out of habit, feeling the quiet in a way you never noticed before. The silence is loud, and the space he left behind feels endless. You think you will never recover. You think you will always feel this empty. But then something shifts. One day you wake up, and the pain isn't the first thing on your mind. You start making plans again. Not plans that revolve around someone else, but plans that are yours alone. You start laughing again, and it surprises you, because you forgot what real laughter felt like. You start noticing how beautiful the sky looks at sunset, how good the warmth of the sun feels on your skin. And then, without realizing it, you begin to fall in love with life again. Not because of a new man, not because someone came along to make you forget, but because you started remembering who you were before him. This is the shift. The moment when you stop seeing his absence as a loss and start seeing it as a blank page. The day you stop looking back is the day you start building the future you deserve. Because the truth is, no one who is meant for you will ever leave. A man who walks away is not a man you need to chase. You are not meant to shrink yourself to fit inside someone else's world. You are meant to expand into the woman you were always meant to become. And when you embrace this, something incredible happens. You stop waiting for closure. You stop needing explanations. You stop seeing him as the author of your story and start writing the next chapter yourself. The most powerful transformation happens when you realize that his departure wasn't the tragedy you thought it was. It was the moment the universe cleared the path for something greater. One day, maybe months from now, you'll look back and see it for what it was. Not an ending, a beginning. 5. When you stay silent, he regrets it more. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Epictetus. You want to text him, you want to call, you want to say something, anything to close this chapter, but instead you do something else. You stay silent. And that silence, it haunts him. Most women make the mistake of thinking that if they just explain themselves, if they just say the right words, if they just remind him of what they had, he will suddenly see what he lost. But words don't teach a man what he has. Silence does. The moment you stop chasing is the moment he starts thinking. At first, he enjoys the space. He feels in control. He believes that you will eventually reach out, that you will give in, and that you will seek closure. But then something unexpected happens. Days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, and there's nothing from you. No message, no reaction, no attempt to fix what's broken. That's when doubt creeps in, because now he's the one left wondering. He's the one checking his phone. He's the one scrolling through old messages. He's the one replaying moments in his head, questioning if he underestimated your strength. I know this because I've seen it happen. Months after he left, he texted me. A simple message, "I miss you." My response? Nothing. Not out of anger, not out of spite, but because by then, I had nothing left to say. I had already moved forward. That's the power of silence. A man expects you to beg. He expects you to ask why. He expects you to try to fix what he broke. Surprise him by walking away. You see, men are wired to believe that when they pull away, a woman will chase. When they go silent, a woman will try to fill the space. But when you do the opposite, when you give them nothing to react to, it forces them to face what they lost. Because the truth is, people only truly value what they fear losing forever. So the next time you feel the urge to text him, ask yourself this: do I really want him back? Or do I just want to prove that I mattered? If it's the latter, you already know your answer. Let silence teach him the lesson your words never could. 6. You don't need to prove your worth. The right one will see it from the start. Love is not an audition. The right man will never require you to prove your worth before he chooses you. Too many women spend their energy trying to convince a man to love them, giving more, sacrificing more, hoping that if they just do enough, he will finally see their value. But love doesn't work that way. You cannot persuade someone to love you, no matter how much you give. Think about the relationships in your life that feel effortless. The friendships where you never have to chase, never have to prove, never have to question if you are enough. Love, when it's real, feels just like that. When a man truly values you, you won't have to perform. You won't have to fight for his attention or compete for his affection. He will love you for who you are, not for what you do for him. There's a reason why the most fulfilling relationships are the ones where you can simply be yourself. Because when someone genuinely sees your worth, you don't have to convince them of it. But here's the problem. Many women have been conditioned to believe that love is something they have to earn. That if they are just a little more patient, a little more understanding, a little more giving, then maybe, just maybe, he will finally choose them. This belief leads to a cycle of chasing. Chasing his validation, chasing his time, chasing the moment when he will finally realize that you were always enough. But chasing does not create love, it only creates exhaustion. If a man does not see your worth now, he never will. If he is unsure, if he is inconsistent, if he makes you feel like you are an option rather than a priority, he is not the one. The right man will not leave you questioning whether you are enough. He will not make you prove your worth through your sacrifices. He will see you, and he will choose you. Not because you convinced him, but because he recognized your value from the beginning. This is why it is so important to let go of anyone who cannot appreciate you as you are. Holding on to someone who doesn't fully value you only blocks you from the one who will. Imagine this. You are standing at a door, knocking endlessly, waiting for someone to let you in. The longer you wait, the more desperate you become. But what you don't realize is that just a few steps away, there is another door, wide open, waiting for you to walk through. The wrong man is the door you keep knocking on. The right man is the one who never makes you wait. Love should never feel like convincing. It should never feel like you are constantly trying to be good enough. Real love is certain. It is steady. It is freely given. So if a man cannot see your worth now, don't waste time trying to make him. Walk away, not because you are giving up on love, but because you are making space for the love that was meant for you all along. 7. When you're strong enough to walk away, you attract what's meant for you. The day I truly left, not just physically but emotionally, something shifted. My energy changed, and suddenly, things started falling into place in ways they never had before. For the longest time I had held on, hoping, waiting, believing that if I just tried harder, if I just loved more, if I just endured a little longer, things would change. But they never did. Because the truth is, when you hold on to what isn't meant for you, you block what is. Letting go isn't about giving up. It's about clearing space for what truly belongs to you. You see, self-worth is like a magnet. The stronger it is, the better things you attract. The moment you stop begging for love, you start receiving it. First from yourself, then from those who actually deserve you. I had spent so much time trying to hold on to the wrong man, trying to prove I was enough, trying to get him to see my worth, and the entire time, I didn't realize that the one thing keeping me stuck wasn't him, it was my refusal to walk away. But the moment I did, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. I had carried the weight of a man who was never fully mine for too long, and when I finally put it down, I realized how much lighter I felt. This is what people don't tell you about walking away. At first, it feels like a loss, like stepping into the unknown, like tearing yourself away from something familiar. But then with time, you realize that walking away wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. The moment you stop chasing the wrong thing, the right things start finding you. New opportunities, new experiences, and yes, new love. But more than that, a new version of yourself. One who no longer tolerates less than she deserves. one who no longer settles for breadcrumbs, one who finally understands that love should never feel like convincing. And then, something unexpected happens. The same person you once begged to stay starts to notice your absence. The same man who took you for granted begins to wonder why you aren't still there, waiting for him. Because when you walk away with confidence, it forces people to reevaluate what they lost. But by then, it won't even matter. Because by then, you'll realize the real prize wasn't him. It was the strength you found in yourself. So if you're hesitating, if you're wondering whether you should stay a little longer, fight a little harder, ask yourself this: are you holding on to him? Or are you holding on to the idea of what you wish he could be? Because the right person will never require you to abandon yourself to keep them. And once you understand that, you'll never settle again. 8. You are the prize, not a backup plan. The moment you see yourself as the prize, everything changes. For too long, you've been conditioned to believe that love is something you earn. That if you give enough, wait long enough, and prove yourself enough, a man will finally recognize your worth. But the truth is, the right man will never need convincing. If he makes you feel like an option, remind him that he never had the right to your presence in the first place. I used to wait. I used to hope. I used to settle for breadcrumbs, thinking that maybe, just maybe, he would finally realize my worth. But then, I remembered who I was. A high-value woman does not wait to be chosen. She does not linger in uncertainty, hoping for a man to make up his mind. She does not settle for half love, mixed signals, or being kept in the background while he decides if she's worth it. Because she already knows she is. You are not a convenience. You are not a backup plan. You are not someone's second choice. You are the prize. And the right man will never make you question that. So why do so many women tolerate being treated as anything less? Because deep down, they fear that if they walk away, they will lose their chance at love. But here's the truth. Love should never feel like convincing. The moment you start seeing yourself as the prize, you stop chasing. You stop tolerating inconsistency. You stop excusing disrespect. And when you do that, you force the world to see you differently. A man who is unsure about you is not a man you want. A man who takes you for granted, who makes you feel replaceable, who expects you to fight for his attention, he is already showing you his true character. So instead of questioning if you are enough for him, ask yourself, is he even enough for me? The moment you shift your perspective, the dynamic changes. You stop waiting for him to call, you stop checking his social media, you stop trying to prove that you are the best choice. Because a woman who knows her worth does not audition for love. And then something happens. The man who once kept you on the sidelines suddenly starts paying attention. The one who thought you would always be there begins to wonder why you're not anymore. The moment you stop chasing is the moment they start realizing what they took for granted. But by then, it won't even matter. Because by then, you will have outgrown the version of yourself that once settled for less. You will no longer crave validation from someone who is never truly capable of appreciating you. And you will finally understand the truth. A high-value woman does not wait to be chosen. She chooses. And when she does, she never settles. What you've just heard is not just advice. It's a new way of seeing yourself. A new way of understanding your worth, your strength, and your ability to walk away from anything that does not honor you. This is not about winning him back. This is about winning yourself back. Too many women waste time trying to make someone see their value. But a woman who truly understands her worth never has to convince anyone. The right people will recognize it. The wrong ones will teach you the power of walking away. Detachment is not about indifference. It's about knowing what you deserve. It's about no longer begging for the bare minimum. It's about standing firm in your self-worth and allowing what is truly meant for you to come naturally. So, if he chose another woman, let him. If he was unsure about you, let him be. Because your time, your energy, and your presence are privileges, not entitlements. And when you start living by this truth, you'll see something incredible happen. You will stop attracting men who need convincing. You will stop waiting to be chosen. Instead, you will step into your power, and the right people will be drawn to you effortlessly. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever walked away from something that wasn't serving you? How did it change your life? Share your story below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today.